The Galactic Council had always been a mystery to humanity. For years, humans had heard stories about this powerful group ruling the galaxy, but no one really knew who they were. Many thought they were just like humans, different planets, same species. Some even believed that the Council was preparing to attack Earth, and that idea scared everyone. The leaders of Earth, especially the military, grew nervous. They couldn't sit and wait for an invasion. They wanted to strike first, to show the Council that humans weren't weak. The generals convinced Earth's government that a preemptive attack was the best solution. They had no idea what the Galactic Council truly was, but they believed their technology and power could handle anything. The human fleet was massive, with state-of-the-art warships and highly trained soldiers. Earth's leaders were confident. They thought they were going to face a group of human-like enemies. Nothing they couldn't handle. The orders were clear. Take out the Council's defenses, hit hard, and return victorious. Everyone believed this would be an easy mission. The day of the attack came quickly. The fleet left Earth and made its way across the stars, moving with speed and precision. As they neared the Galactic Council's base, hidden in the depths of space, the human commanders felt a rush of excitement. Victory seemed so close. As the human fleet approached, they launched their first strike. Missiles and lasers cut through the dark sky, crashing into the Council's outer defenses. Human soldiers cheered as explosions lit up the space around them. Everything was going according to plan. They broke through the outer shields, destroying satellites and defense towers with ease. The human commanders exchanged smiles, convinced they had made the right choice. But there was something strange about the Council's base. It didn't look like anything they had expected. The buildings were large, tall, and strange, with no familiar design. Some of them seemed to be made of glowing material, unlike anything humans had seen before. The fleet paused for a moment, unsure of what they were looking at, but their orders were clear: destroy the target and secure the area. They pushed forward. As the fleet entered the main part of the base, things became even more unusual. Strange signals and transmissions started to flood their systems. The ship's sensors picked up life forms, but the readings were confusing. They didn't match any human patterns. But the commanders brushed it off. They still believed they were fighting other humans. After all, how different could the Council be? The fleet continued its attack, moving deeper into the heart of the base. Human soldiers landed on the surface, ready to take control. But as they marched forward, they finally saw something that made their hearts stop. Aliens. Real living aliens. Creatures that looked nothing like humans. Some had multiple eyes, others had no faces at all. They moved in ways that defied everything the soldiers knew. The humans froze, staring in shock at these strange beings. They had expected a fight, but not this. The Galactic Council wasn't just humans. It was a group of many different alien species, far more advanced than anyone on Earth had ever imagined. The realization hit hard. This was not the enemy they thought they were fighting, and now it was too late to turn back. The human fleet moved closer to the heart of the Galactic Council's base, unaware of the grave mistake they were about to make. The attack had started well, with Earth's forces breaking through the outer defenses easily. Human commanders felt confident, their ships cutting through space with precision. They believed victory was only a matter of time. As the ships approached the main area of the base, they noticed the strange design of the Council's structures. These were no ordinary buildings. They glowed with a soft, eerie light, and the shapes were like nothing seen on Earth. Some buildings were floating, held up by invisible forces. Others seemed to pulse with energy. The human soldiers were uneasy, but their orders were clear: attack, destroy, and move forward. "Focus on the mission!" Commander Jensen barked through the comms, trying to keep his troops calm. "Don't let the weird designs distract you." The fleet launched another wave of missiles and lasers, targeting the main buildings. Explosions rocked the area, and for a moment it seemed like they were doing serious damage. But as the smoke cleared, something strange happened. Some of the buildings repaired themselves, pieces coming back together like they were alive. The humans had never seen anything like it before. The soldiers on the ground hesitated, watching as the structures healed from the damage. But the orders came in again. "Keep moving! We have to push through." Human soldiers rushed forward, weapons ready, expecting to meet resistance from the Council's forces. But the area was strangely quiet. No one had come to fight them yet. It felt too easy. The soldiers shared nervous glances, but kept moving. Their boots clanked against the strange metallic surface of the base, echoing in the empty halls. Suddenly, alarms blared, lights flickered, and the ground began to shake. The human fleet was under attack. Out of nowhere, the true defenders of the Galactic Council revealed themselves. Alien ships, sleek and fast, swarmed out of hidden chambers. These weren't the slow, bulky crafts the humans were used to. They moved with frightening speed, darting in and out of the human ships, firing strange weapons that disabled the human shields. The human fleet scrambled to defend itself. "What are these things?" one of the pilots yelled as his ship shook from an energy blast. Commander Jensen's voice crackled over the comms. "Stay focused!" We knew they'd have defenses. "We're not backing down!" But the human ships were struggling. The alien craft were more advanced than anything humans had ever faced. Their weapons didn't just damage, they paralyzed the human ships, leaving them dead in the water. Panic spread through the fleet as more and more ships were hit. On the ground, the human soldiers found themselves in a similar situation. From the shadows, the aliens emerged. Dozens of different species, each more terrifying than the last. Some were tall and thin, others large and armored. Their movements were smooth, almost graceful, but their eyes showed no mercy. They surrounded the humans with strange weapons that hummed with deadly power. The humans, shocked and confused, raised their guns but didn't fire. They had expected a fight with humans, not this. They were completely unprepared for what they were now facing. "Commander, what do we do?" one of the soldiers asked, his voice shaking. Jensen hesitated, staring at the alien forces. For the first time, doubt crept into his mind. They had attacked without knowing the truth. Now, surrounded by alien ships and warriors, he wondered if they had made the biggest mistake of their lives. The human soldiers stood frozen, staring at the creatures before them. Nothing in their training had prepared them for this. Aliens, real, living aliens, were now staring back at them. These were not the human-like enemies they had expected. The Galactic Council wasn't made up of humans. It was a collection of alien species, each one more strange and terrifying than the next. Some of the aliens were tall, with elongated limbs and glowing blue skin. Others were short, with hard, armored bodies that reflected the dim light of the base. A few had no visible eyes, but they seemed to know exactly where the humans were standing. Their weapons were just as strange. Glowing staffs, sharp blades that vibrated, and strange orbs that hovered around them, humming with energy. Private Harris, a young soldier, could barely keep his hands from shaking. He had signed up for the Earth military thinking he'd be fighting other humans. No one had ever said anything about fighting aliens. His breathing quickened, his grip on his rifle tightening as he tried to make sense of what was happening. What are they?" he whispered, his voice barely audible through his helmet. Sergeant Mitchell, the team's leader, swallowed hard. He was an experienced soldier, having fought in many battles before. But this was different. He had never seen anything like this. He scanned the alien forces with wide eyes, trying to keep his fear under control. "I don't know," he replied, his voice steady but tense. "But we need to stay calm. Don't make any sudden moves." The humans and aliens stood in a tense standoff, neither side moving. The humans were too shocked to attack, and the aliens seemed to be waiting for something. The air was thick with fear and uncertainty. The soldiers exchanged nervous glances, their minds racing. Commander Jensen, who was overseeing the operation from the safety of his command ship, watched the scene unfold on his screen. His mouth was dry, and for the first time he felt the weight of his decision. This wasn't a war against other humans. This was something much bigger. He had led his men into a battle they couldn't win, and now they were face to face with creatures they didn't understand. "What do we do, Commander?" one of the officers on the ship asked, panic creeping into her voice. Jensen didn't answer right away. His mind was racing, trying to come up with a plan. They couldn't fight these aliens head-on. Their technology was too advanced, and their numbers were overwhelming. But retreat wasn't an option either. They had already committed to the attack, and pulling out now would only leave them exposed. "We need to regroup," Jensen finally said, his voice firm. "Pull the ground troops back to a defensive position." On the ground, Sergeant Mitchell received the order. "Fall back!" he shouted to his team. "Move slowly, no sudden movements." "We're getting out of here!" The soldiers, still in shock, began to back away, their eyes never leaving the alien forces. The aliens watched them go, but they didn't follow. It was almost as if they were studying the humans, trying to understand them just as much as the humans were trying to understand them. As the soldiers retreated, Private Harris couldn't help but steal one last glance at the strange creatures. He had never felt so small, so out of place. For the first time in his life, he realized just how vast the universe really was, and how little humanity truly knew about it. The first shock had set in, and now the humans had to face a terrifying new reality. They were not the most advanced or powerful beings in the galaxy, and the Galactic Council, full of mysterious alien species, was far more than they had bargained for. Back on Earth, the news of the failed attack on the Galactic Council had started to spread. At first, the leaders tried to keep it quiet, but whispers of the disaster leaked through the cracks. People were starting to ask questions, and soon fear gripped the entire planet. In the command center, Commander Jensen stared at the transmission screen, listening to reports coming in from the fleet. The soldiers were in retreat, and the alien forces had not pursued them, yet. But the damage was done. The human forces were scattered, their ships battered by the alien technology they had never seen before. It was only a matter of time before panic would break out. Jensen slammed his fist on the table, his frustration boiling over. How could we have been so wrong? He muttered to himself. He had led them into a battle without knowing the true strength of the enemy, and now it felt like everything was falling apart. "Commander," one of his officers called out, her voice shaky. "The situation is worse than we thought. News of the attack is spreading back home. People are terrified. They're starting to realize what we're up against." Jensen took a deep breath, trying to think. The mission had gone horribly wrong, and the sight of those strange, terrifying aliens had left the soldiers shaken. Fear was now spreading, not just among the troops, but across Earth itself. In the streets of major cities, rumors ran wild. People gathered in groups, whispering about the aliens, their strange powers, and how hopeless the situation seemed. Conspiracy theories grew, with some claiming that the Galactic Council was planning an invasion of Earth in retaliation. Others feared that the aliens would enslave humanity, or worse, wipe them out entirely. At a small diner in one of Earth's major cities, a group of friends sat around a table, their faces pale as they discussed the rumors. "Did you hear what happened out there?" one man asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "The Council isn't human. They're aliens. Monsters. Our fleet barely made it out alive." A woman sitting across from him shook her head. "I can't believe it. I thought they were just like us. How could we have been so wrong?" "Doesn't matter now," another man added. "What matters is what happens next. If we attack again, we're done for. There's no way we can beat them. I heard their ships tore through our defenses like paper." The woman shivered. "Do you think they'll come here? To Earth?" Silence fell over the group. The question hung in the air, too terrifying to answer. But deep down, everyone knew the truth. The Galactic Council was far more powerful than humanity had ever imagined. And if they decided to attack Earth, there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. Back at the military command center, the fear was just as strong. Soldiers who had returned from the mission spoke in hushed voices, sharing stories of the strange, terrifying aliens they had encountered. Some of them couldn't sleep, haunted by the images of the glowing creatures, their advanced weapons, and the cold, emotionless stares they had received. Jensen knew the fear was spreading like wildfire. He could feel it in the air, see it in the eyes of his officers. And worst of all, he didn't have a plan. The attack had been a failure, and now they were at the mercy of an enemy they didn't understand. "Commander," an officer said quietly, "what do we do now?" Jensen didn't answer right away. He looked out the window, staring into the endless black of space. For the first time in his career, he didn't have an answer. All he knew was that fear was spreading, and if they didn't find a way to stop it, humanity's future would be in serious danger. The humans thought they had time. They believed the aliens would hesitate or maybe try to negotiate. But the Galactic Council had other plans. Just days after the failed attack, the aliens launched their counterstrike, and it was swift, brutal, and unlike anything humanity had ever seen. On Earth, the alarms blared across every major city. Red lights flashed in command centers as soldiers scrambled to their stations. The skies above Earth were filled with streaks of light, alien ships, sleek and silent, cutting through the atmosphere like knives. They didn't roar or rumble like human ships. They moved with terrifying grace, as if space and air were bending to their will. Commander Jensen stood at the command center, watching the screens as the first wave of alien ships descended toward Earth's surface. His heart pounded in his chest. He knew they were outmatched. The human ships in orbit were already being torn apart by the alien fleet, their defenses useless against the advanced technology. "Prepare all ground defenses," Jensen barked. "We can't let them take the cities." The ground shook as the first alien ships touched down, opening their hatches to release waves of alien warriors. These weren't the bulky, slow machines the humans used. The alien soldiers were fast, their movements fluid and efficient. They wore armor that shimmered in the light, almost as if it was alive, and their weapons glowed with strange, pulsing energy. In the streets, chaos erupted. Human soldiers set up defensive lines, firing everything they had, guns, missiles, lasers, but it was no use. The alien technology was far superior. Their shields absorbed the human attacks like they were nothing more than raindrops. The human soldiers were being pushed back and panic was setting in. Private Harris, who had survived the first mission to the Council base, found himself on the front lines again. His hands shook as he held his rifle, firing wildly at the approaching alien forces. "We can't stop them!" he shouted, his voice filled with fear. Sergeant Mitchell, standing beside him, gritted his teeth. "Hold your ground! We have to try!" But deep down, Mitchell knew the truth. The aliens were too strong. Their weapons cut through human armor like butter, and their soldiers moved with deadly precision. He watched as more and more of his men fell, their bodies crumpling under the alien assault. Across the city, similar scenes played out. The aliens were not just fighting back. They were overwhelming Earth's defenses. Their ships hovered over the major cities, firing beams of energy that disintegrated anything in their path. Buildings crumbled, streets cracked open, and the sky itself seemed to be on fire. In the command center, Jensen watched in horror. His screens showed the devastation in real time. The alien ships were everywhere, and no matter how many human ships or soldiers were sent to stop them, it wasn't enough. The aliens were too advanced, their strategy flawless. "We're losing," an officer whispered, her face pale as she watched the destruction unfold. "They're destroying everything." Jensen clenched his fists. He had known this would be bad, but he hadn't expected the aliens to retaliate with such force. It was as if they were making a statement. Humanity had made a mistake by attacking the Council, and now they would pay the price. "Send out a distress signal to all remaining ships," Jensen ordered. "We need to regroup and find a way to push them back." But as he spoke, he knew there was little hope. The aliens weren't just fighting, they were dominating. And Earth's forces were being torn apart, city by city, soldier by soldier. The Galactic Council wasn't just defending themselves anymore. They were making sure humanity understood the consequences of their actions. And as the aliens fought back with relentless force, it became clear that this war was far from over, and humanity might not survive it. The battle had raged for days. Earth's cities were now nothing more than burning wreckage, and the human forces were scattered and broken. The Galactic Council's retaliation had been fierce, and as the dust began to settle, the full extent of the devastation became painfully clear. The once confident human commanders were now consumed by regret. Commander Jensen sat alone in his darkened office, his face illuminated by the glow of the screens around him. The images they displayed were haunting: cities in ruins, civilian casualties, and the overwhelming power of the alien forces. His heart was heavy with the weight of his decisions. They had attacked without knowing the full extent of the enemy's strength, and now humanity was paying the price. "How did we get here?" Jensen muttered to himself, staring at a video feed of a city he once knew. The skyline was reduced to smoking ruins, and alien ships patrolled the airspace like predators surveying their territory. The door to his office opened, and Sergeant Mitchell walked in, his face lined with exhaustion and guilt. He had seen too much over the past few days, too many of his comrades falling, too many cities burning. "Commander," Mitchell said, his voice flat, "we've lost contact with most of our units. The aliens have control of nearly all major cities. It's only a matter of time before they take over the rest." Jensen looked up, his eyes filled with a deep sadness. "I never thought it would come to this. We were supposed to be the strongest. How could we have underestimated them so badly?" Mitchell shook his head. "We thought we could just attack and win. We didn't think about what we were really up against. These aliens, they're not just advanced, they're almost invincible. The room was silent for a moment. Jensen felt the weight of his decision pressing down on him. He had led his people into a conflict without fully understanding the consequences. Now, the human race was on the brink of destruction, and there was no clear path to victory. "We need to find a way to stop this," Jensen said finally. "There must be something we can do to turn this around." Mitchell nodded. "But what?" "They've shown us their power. They've crushed our defenses. If we keep fighting like this, we'll only destroy ourselves." Jensen's mind raced as he tried to think of a solution. The alien forces had proven their strength, and their technology was far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. There had to be a way to negotiate, to find a way out of this nightmare. Perhaps we should consider diplomacy," Jensen suggested hesitantly. "We need to reach out to them, apologize for our actions, and see if there's a way to make peace." Mitchell looked surprised. "You think they'll listen to us after everything that's happened?" Jensen took a deep breath. "It's our only option left. If we keep fighting, we'll only ensure our own destruction. We need to show them that we're willing to make amends." The two men looked at each other, their faces reflecting the same sense of desperate hope. They knew it wouldn't be easy. The aliens had every reason to be angry, and convincing them to negotiate would be a daunting task. But if there was even a slim chance of saving humanity, it was worth trying. Jensen made a decision. "Get in touch with any remaining diplomats and representatives. We need to send a message to the Galactic Council. It's time to stop fighting and start talking." As Mitchell left to carry out the orders, Jensen remained behind, staring at the screens that showed the burning ruins of his world. The regret was overwhelming, but there was a small glimmer of hope. If they could convince the Council to listen, maybe, just maybe, there was a chance for peace. But as the alien ships continued their patrols and the city smoldered, the path to redemption seemed uncertain. Humanity had made a grave mistake, and now it was up to them to make things right before it was too late. The human fleet had been reduced to a fraction of its former strength. The remnants of the once proud military force were now a ragtag group of survivors, hiding in the shadows of their shattered cities. The fires of battle had given way to a somber silence, broken only by the occasional distant explosion or the whir of alien patrols overhead. Humanity's last hope lay in an act of diplomacy, a plea for forgiveness. In a makeshift negotiation room, Commander Jensen and his team gathered, their faces drawn and tired. The room was lit only by the dim glow of a single screen that flickered with the logo of the Galactic Council. It was their only link to the aliens, their only chance to make things right. Sergeant Mitchell stood beside Jensen, his expression one of grim determination. "Are you sure about this, Commander?" he asked quietly. "We're asking them to forgive us for almost wiping them out. They might not take it well." Jensen nodded, his face etched with concern. "It's our only chance. We've caused a lot of damage, and if we don't make a sincere attempt to apologize, we might not have a future at all." The screen flickered and a face appeared, an alien delegate from the Galactic Council. Its features were both alien and majestic, with eyes that seemed to pierce through the screen. It was the same species that had led the initial counterattack against Earth. "Commander Jensen," the alien's voice echoed, calm and measured. "We have received your request for a meeting. What is it you wish to discuss?" Jensen took a deep breath, trying to steady his nerves. "Thank you for meeting with us. I come to you not as a military leader, but as a representative of humanity. We have made a grave mistake, and we deeply regret the attack on your council." The alien's eyes narrowed slightly. "Grave mistake? Your actions have caused significant damage and loss of life. Why should we consider forgiveness?" Jensen swallowed hard. "We acted out of ignorance and fear. We thought we could overpower you without understanding who you are or the strength of your people. We were wrong. Our attack was reckless and unjustified. We now see the error of our ways and seek to make amends." Mitchell stepped forward, his voice firm. "We understand that words alone may not be enough to repair the damage we've caused. We are prepared to offer compensation and work towards rebuilding what we have destroyed. We want to start a dialogue, not as enemies, but as partners." The alien delegate listened in silence, its expression unreadable. For a long moment, the room was filled with the sound of the alien's slow, rhythmic breathing. Jensen and Mitchell exchanged anxious glances, hoping their offer of peace would be enough. Finally, the delegate spoke. "Your apology is noted. However, actions will speak louder than words. You will need to demonstrate your sincerity through concrete steps. We will consider a ceasefire, but only if you can show us that you are committed to repairing the damage and ensuring such an incident does not happen again. Jensen's heart raced with a mix of relief and apprehension. We will do everything in our power to prove our commitment. We will initiate repairs and offer assistance to those affected by our actions. We want to build a lasting peace, and we are ready to take the necessary steps. The delegate nodded slowly. We will observe your actions closely. This is your chance to show that you are capable of making amends. We expect to see significant changes and genuine efforts to rectify the situation. The screen went dark, and Jensen and Mitchell let out a collective sigh of relief. The offer of a ceasefire was a glimmer of hope, but it was only the beginning. They had a long road ahead, filled with challenges and uncertainty. The path to forgiveness would be hard, but it was their only chance for survival. As they left the makeshift room, Jensen felt a small spark of hope flicker within him. They had been given a chance to make things right, and now it was up to humanity to prove they were worthy of it. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, there was a chance for peace. The ceasefire had been granted, but the Galactic Council's terms were clear. Humanity had to prove its commitment to peace. The Council had given Earth a chance, but now the eyes of the galaxy were on them. The final test was set to determine if humanity was truly ready to make amends. In the heart of what was left of New York City, the survivors gathered around a temporary command center. The city was still smoldering from the recent attacks, but there was a renewed sense of purpose among the people. Commander Jensen, Sergeant Mitchell, and their team were preparing for the most critical mission of their lives to show the Galactic Council that humanity was sincere in its efforts to repair the damage. Jensen reviewed the plan for the umpteenth time. We need to demonstrate our commitment to peace by fulfilling the Council's demands. This involves repairing the damage we've caused and assisting in the recovery of the alien cities that were affected. We must also show that we can work together, not just among ourselves, but with the aliens. Mitchell nodded. We've already made contact with the alien representatives, and they're sending a team to oversee our progress. They'll be monitoring our every move. The pressure was immense. The aliens had provided specific guidelines for the restoration efforts. Human teams were assigned to rebuild alien infrastructure, clear debris from their cities, and offer medical aid to the alien survivors. It was a daunting task, but it was their only chance to prove their sincerity. As the alien overseers arrived, they were greeted by a mixture of hope and nervousness. The alien delegates, with their cold, piercing eyes, watched as the human teams began their work. The first few days were crucial. Mistakes or signs of insincerity could easily jeopardize the fragile ceasefire. Private Harris, who had survived the earlier attacks, was among the workers. He worked alongside the alien teams, repairing their damaged structures and clearing away the wreckage. Every move was scrutinized. The pressure to perform well was immense, and Harris could feel the weight of the galaxy's expectations on his shoulders. In a particularly damaged part of the city, Harris and an alien technician worked side by side. The alien's presence was intimidating, but Harris kept his focus. He knew that his actions would either mend or break the fragile peace that had been offered. "How are we doing?" Harris asked, trying to sound casual but feeling the tension in his voice. The alien technician glanced at him, its eyes expressionless. "You are doing well. The work is being completed to our standards. But remember, this is just the beginning. There is still much to be done." Harris nodded, focusing on his task. Each repair was done with meticulous care, every effort made to meet the Council's high expectations. He could sense the importance of every small task. Each piece of debris cleared, each structure rebuilt was a step toward redemption. Back at the command center, Jensen and Mitchell monitored the progress. The alien delegates reported regularly, noting both the successes and the shortcomings. Jensen's nerves were on edge as he awaited their final assessment. After weeks of hard work, the alien delegates convened to deliver their verdict. The representatives from the Galactic Council stood before Jensen, their expressions unreadable. "Commander Jensen," one of the delegates began, "we have reviewed the work done by your teams. The efforts to repair and rebuild have been substantial. However, the true measure of your sincerity will be in the long-term commitment to maintaining peace and ensuring that such actions are never repeated." Jensen's heart pounded. "We understand." We are committed to rebuilding and ensuring that our future actions reflect our new understanding. We will work tirelessly to make sure that peace is maintained." The delegate nodded slowly. "We will be watching. If you continue to demonstrate your commitment, then we believe that a lasting peace can be achieved. This is your final test, and you have shown that you are capable of making amends." Relief washed over Jensen and his team. They had passed the final test, but the journey was far from over. The path to peace was still long and uncertain, but for now, humanity had earned a chance to rebuild and to prove that they could coexist with the Galactic Council. The final test had been passed, but the real work of building a lasting peace had just begun. The sun rose over the remnants of New York City, casting a hopeful glow on the streets that had been scarred by recent battles. The once battered city was now a symbol of resilience, its skyline gradually being rebuilt. After months of intense efforts and careful diplomacy, humanity had reached a turning point. The Galactic Council had approved a new beginning, but the real work of forging a lasting peace was only just starting. Commander Jensen stood at the edge of the city, surveying the progress. The alien delegates had been impressed by the efforts of the human teams, and the ceasefire had evolved into a full peace agreement. Now Jensen faced the challenge of turning this fragile peace into a lasting alliance. In a nearby construction site, human and alien workers labored side by side, their cooperation a testament to the new era of understanding. Sergeant Mitchell, who had been instrumental in the recovery efforts, was coordinating the joint efforts. His face, once lined with worry, now showed a mixture of determination and optimism. "We're making real progress," Mitchell said to Jensen as they walked through the bustling site. "The aliens are starting to trust us more. Their engineers are working with ours, and there's a real sense of teamwork." Jensen nodded, looking around at the combined effort. "It's incredible to see how far we've come. I never imagined we'd be working side by side with them like this. It's a testament to the hard work and commitment of everyone involved." The peace agreement had brought many changes. Alien technology and expertise were being shared with humanity, helping to rebuild not just the physical structures, but also the trust that had been damaged. Joint councils were established to oversee the rebuilding efforts and ensure that both parties adhered to the new terms of cooperation. In the heart of the city, a grand ceremony was set to take place. It was a celebration of the new beginning, a symbol of the hope that had emerged from the ashes of conflict. Alien and human leaders would come together to mark the start of a new era. As the ceremony began, the streets were filled with people from both species. Human and alien representatives took their places on the stage, their faces reflecting a mixture of pride and hope. Jensen stood among them, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. The scars of war were still visible, but they were slowly being replaced by signs of rebuilding and renewal. The Galactic Council's lead delegate stepped forward to address the crowd. "Today marks a new chapter in our history. We have faced great challenges, but through cooperation and understanding, we have come to a place where peace is not just a dream, but a reality. We will continue to work together to ensure that this peace endures and that our two worlds can thrive in harmony." Jensen stepped up to the microphone, his voice steady and clear. "On behalf of humanity, I want to express our deepest gratitude. We made mistakes, and we have worked hard to make amends. We look forward to a future where our two species can build a better world together. This is just the beginning, and we are committed to making it a success." The crowd erupted into applause, a mixture of human and alien hands clapping in unity. The ceremony was a powerful reminder of what had been achieved and what lay ahead. The road to peace was long and required ongoing effort, but the foundation had been laid. As the sun set over the city, casting its final rays on the new beginnings taking shape, Jensen and Mitchell stood together, watching the celebrations. They knew the journey was far from over, but for the first time they felt a sense of optimism and unity. Humanity and the Galactic Council had come through a period of great strife, but they had emerged stronger and more connected. The new beginning was a promise to learn from the past, to build a better future, and to ensure that the peace achieved was not just a temporary ceasefire, but a lasting and meaningful alliance.